Good morning, AI community, and welcome to sunny Los Angeles, California. We are here for a full day of coverage at Teradata Possible, and I am personally very excited. My name is Savannah Peterson, delighted to be joined by Rob Strechay. You're a pro here at this show, and I'm just getting my first taste.
I love this show because I've been around Teradata as an end user in the community for a while and seen it grow up and grow out as it has expanded and really actually focused. And I think that's really coming out of the keynotes was really one of the big keys that I took away and really over last year at Orlando to this year. So really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn with you today, Rob. And speaking of keynotes, the man himself, Steve, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Squeezing us in your very busy schedule, standing room only in the keynote this morning. Very impressive. What's it like for you to see your whole community and team here this week?
Look, this event for us is probably one of the most important things we do every single year. It's great to see all of our customers, partners, our friends interact with us. We get to show off our most recent technology announcements, but I had the pleasure of just recapping the journey that Teradata has been on over the last 4 years since I joined, which was awesome to really set that into context, and then how we see Teradata moving forward into the future.
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
Yeah, because I think what was exciting is, having been in Orlando last year and now in LA, a little closer to your home, I guess you could say, but it's really, what was the key was last year it was about cloud and how you're making things go faster on cloud. This year, again, you started to move down away from just the software aspect and the cloud aspect into the platform aspect.
Yep.
Kind of give us kind of that journey and how you've been focusing the company.
Yeah, I think when I joined 4 years ago, I wanted to say what the company would be as we move forward, and also what we weren't going to be. And I think Teradata has always been a fantastic technology company. We were founded on some just awesome patents. For the audience that may not know, it was actually a collaboration between Caltech and Citibank that spun out the Teradata technology.
In the 70s?
In the 70s, yes.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I have the pleasure of running a company with a strong heritage.
Yes.
I said we were going to really focus back onto our technology roots. At our core, we're a technology company. But I know that the secret sauce that we've developed and the patents that we've developed over time are all contained within our software. And every great software company is a platform company. And to your point, I think focus is really important. Being a platform company means that we don't need to be all things to all people. We can bring the best of other capabilities in the world and combine it with the Teradata software platform to get unique business outcomes that nobody else can deliver, in our opinion.
I think that's clear. I'm excited for you to share some examples for us of that. We'll get into that in just a second, but I do want to talk about that transformation. I mean, founded in 1979, Teradata is older than I am. But when we think of legacy companies, we don't always think of them as being on the cutting edge of tech, and I say that with love. Y'all have evolved and morphed a lot over the last few decades, but in particular, since you joined. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to address the AI hype and bubble that's going on right now?
Yeah, so I think it's super interesting. The word legacy is fantastic in nearly every single context, apart from IT.
Right, yes, legacy systems are like, give everyone an anxiety attack.
What we've done inside Teradata is really build on that legacy of knowledge, capability, technology, innovation that we started off with. And when you think about the new world from an AI perspective, so advanced analytics is the overall category, AI ML is a subset, Gen AI is a subset of the AI category. All of the workloads that run inside a Gen AI and an AI environment operate at tremendous scale. You just need to look at ChatGPT and think about how many parameters is ChatGPT processing now, billions of parameters, I think. And the inference engine that goes around that means that you have to operate at tremendous scale. Now, when Teradata was founded, and our core technology is based on a massively parallel computing architecture, it enabled us to deliver enterprise-scale data warehouse capabilities way back, to your point, in the early 80s.
Yeah, which is impressive, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why you're still here today.
And we've been able to take that technology and take that architecture and apply it to solving the problems that AI and Gen AI generate inside organizations. When we think about AI workloads, we think about 3 characteristics that they need to operate well. One is, you've got to be really trusted. Yeah, that whole hallucination, badly training your model, not training on the right data, results in that lack of trust. And so we have a focus inside Teradata to ensure that our platform enables our technologists and business users to start to trust the output that comes from that Gen AI solution set. And then the second thing is, it's got to be ethical. Yeah, how do you eliminate bias? Yeah, and so, a lot of capabilities been built over time around model ops. So how do you actually evaluate a model and make sure that you're not introducing bias into that model?
Do you think it's possible to actually completely eliminate bias?
Well, that's why I think when you're looking at bias, you have to have a human-centric approach to AI. Because, and I think some of the examples that we gave in our keynotes were pointed to the importance of having that human still involved in that AI and Gen AI interaction. We see that in our customers today. A number of the banks that we interact with, as an example, they will use Gen AI to augment call center specialist, but not to replace the call center specialist.
Right.
Because they want to keep that human still in the loop.
100%.
Because many times, folks want to talk to a real person. Yeah. And,
it goes back to that trust piece you mentioned earlier.
And Radhika this morning in our opening session pointed to some really bad mistakes that have been made in terms of some unfortunate customer interactions that can generate. So that trusted, ethical is super important. But then the last thing is sustainable. I spoke on stage. We had a fantastic announcement with Microsoft earlier this year with our AI Unlimited engine running in Microsoft Fabric. I had a picture of Satya with the Teradata logo behind him. Now it's interesting that Satya and Microsoft have just announced that they're looking to reinstate 3 Mile Island and fire up one of the atomic generators again so that they can power their data centers.
Oh,
so
wow.
The third thing that we think about is how can you run these models sustainably? Yep, so...
It's critical right now.
If you think about the energy usage predictions for these huge inference engines, you start to get to the point of you've got to be able to run it efficiently and effectively. And the real magic of Teradata is our massively parallel architecture and the way that we orchestrate workloads enables us to run complex AI and Gen AI workloads just as well on a CPU infrastructure as they can run on a GPU infrastructure. And that's a massive leap ahead for us.
That's huge, and that creates an entirely new offering that is more sustainable and cost effective for your customers. I think people are getting a little GPU blinded to a degree where we're not realizing that it's not always going to have to be this huge lift from that processing moment, but that it's actually going to be about inference that makes it real time.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that we are announcing today actually is our new partnership with NVIDIA. Clearly, I think accelerated compute provider, a GPU provider, but imagine the possibilities of combining our software and orchestration capabilities with a GPU infrastructure and the ability to run those inference engines even more effectively, even more efficiently. And so we're super excited about that partnership, what that can bring, how that can deliver to our customers.
Yeah, I think that to me is why, and I think you had the New York Giants on stage with you. Again, big fan of the NFL myself, not to mention F1 that you mentioned earlier, but I think bringing those use cases back to customers is one of the big things that people look to. And I think one of the things the Giants talked about was the fact that you didn't force them to move all their data one way or the other in coordination with, you're working with all of the cloud vendors with AWS, Microsoft, and Google, but they were talking about how they were leveraging AWS. Has that really been like one of the keys that's helped drive those use cases with customers like the F1 and the banks and things of that nature?
Yeah, I think if you just think how we've progressed our cloud business over the last 4 years, we've taken it to over $500 million, hundreds and hundreds of our customers in the cloud now. So,
well done.
I think if only we were valued as a startup, we would be getting some significant
especially
advantage
in this AI
there.
era.
But I think the reason that we've been able to build that business is because we took a very different approach. Our Teradata approach in the past has been bring all of your data into our ecosystem. But we've recognized the fact that data is going to be all in many places in the customer ecosystem, and we should move the query engine to the data rather than moving the data to the query engine, which is a very, very different approach. Yeah, it's a patented capability that we have inside the Teradata ecosystem that allows us to distribute that workload. And we talk about meeting our customers where they want to be met. So F1 is a great example of that. If you imagine they don't have time at a race to upload video to the cloud, process that video in the cloud with telemetry data from the track real time. They wanted a trackside appliance that can run at the track, at the race, to give real-time insights, real-time recommendations, ultimately look at how to make the car faster on track. And so that's a great example of meeting the customer where they want to be met.
At the edge in this case,
at
too.
At the edge.
At the fastest edge,
yeah,
really.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool to think about.
And then we have healthcare organizations that, we love working with healthcare organizations around the world because you can really see the difference that it makes in people's lives. Yeah.
Saves lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Saving lives in real time.
Yeah.
So optimizing a supply chain. We're working with a number of healthcare providers. One of them is illustrated on the screen behind you, talking about Premier and how they optimize their supply chain, how they run that in the cloud to really deliver some significant results and outputs. So different examples around the world. We recently moved American Airlines, their entire on-premise Teradata environment to Azure. And once we'd migrated the entire Teradata environment, controlling many of their different capabilities inside American Airlines, they phoned up their end users and said, how does this, do you notice anything different about the system? And they said, it seems to be running quicker. Which is just the migration story that you want to hear.
Amazing, yeah.
So, but I think one of the things, because I know time is tight with you, and I think one of the big things, and you kind of hit upon it in the keynote as well, is really people are struggling with the ROI of AI or the ROAI.
Yeah.
How do you see, because you're talking to a lot of executives, when you're having those conversations, how do you help them really see into the future of how they're going to get from POC to production?
Yeah, I think if you look at the most recent Gartner hype cycle, it says Gen AI is fallen into that trough of disillusionment. But actually, I was talking to one of our banking customers in Australia, where they said it is not in a trough of disillusionment inside my company. But I think what we're seeing is the battle of the language models has begun, but it has not played out yet. I think the ability to use a large language model, a medium language model, and a small language model for different types of solutions inside our customers is really going to help transform how they think about it. And when I talk to customers, I think about how they're deploying their advanced analytics and AI capabilities in kind of 3 horizons. The first horizon is effectiveness and efficiency, like a co-pilot. Use a Microsoft Copilot, help me write a presentation or an email, whatever that might be. The second horizon is how do you embed AI in your product or service? And we heard from Russell from the New York Giants talking about he sees that as his next step. How does he use language models for inference, a small language model trained on specific data for an outcome? And then the third horizon, which I think can be the most exciting, is how can you use AI to transform your industry? And we had Unilever on stage with us in London last year, where Andy, their chief data officer, was talking about, he sees a time where his merchandising team and the buyer team from an organization like Walmart is essentially 2 bots interacting with each other. And I thought that made me really think about, it's almost like the transformation we had in the financial markets when they moved towards high velocity trading, right?
Exactly.
So it's the battle of the algo, but now it's going to be the battle of the bot. So I think that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be fascinating. What else can we expect from our future?
Look, I'm always the optimist.
Yes,
so,
I love that. I can feel that energy sitting next to you.
When I look at, just as a small example, when we move customers from their on-prem systems into the cloud with us, it frees up resources in our customers to add more value.
Absolutely.
And I think that the AI wave, the Gen AI wave, is going to help unleash more and more creativity. You could almost call it the era of creativity that we're entering into now, where you can essentially outsource your more menial tasks, And you can focus on, how do we be more creative? How do we think about more of advanced problem solving? And I think ultimately that will be more fulfilling for everybody. Everybody talks about, well, is AI going to take away people's jobs? But you look at all of the automation that went into the automotive industry with robotic manufacturing lines. In fact, we've got a great solution ensuring quality control for robotic manufacturing lines. But actually, what it did, it actually accelerated the automotive industry, and it accelerated the innovation in that industry. And if you look broader, it actually increased the employment ratios for automobiles worldwide. So I think that's the kind of future that we're looking with as we embrace these technologies.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that AI is not going to take our jobs, it's going to make our jobs more purposeful, more fun, and give us higher quality time for strategy and creativity. All right, I have one last question for you, because time actually really flew by in this segment. If you could tell the world one thing they might not know about Teradata because they're familiar with you as a legacy company, but maybe not you today, what would you want them to know?
Look, over the last 40 years, but especially in the last 4 years, we've been able to pivot the company to develop a trusted, hybrid platform for AI at scale. And we are delivering those solutions right here, right now, today, leveraging the partnerships that we've just announced with folks like NVIDIA, leveraging our partnerships with Dell for on-premise capabilities, utilizing all the things that we know about on-prem technologies, but then working with AWS, Azure, Google to deliver that capability in the cloud is super exciting.
Okay, I actually have one more question for you because I want to be able to leverage this when we get to interview you next year at this event. What do you hope to be able to say when we're, wherever that might be, not sure if you've selected your city, that you can't say today?
That's a really good question. I think what we're really looking for is that AI impact and the workload impact from an AI perspective. I talked about if we were a startup in the cloud world, what would we be valued at? But if we can really leverage the AI capabilities in our massively parallel architecture, our core technologies around workload management, query optimization, to really deliver in that AI world, I think it's going to make a massive difference to the company.
Well, we can't wait to talk about it with you next year, maybe get some of those customers up here. Now I want to go watch a race, maybe get some F1 going on. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
Today,
thank you so much.
Especially on your most popular day of the year. Rob, always a treat to sit up here with you. And thank all of you for tuning in, wherever you might be on this beautiful rock. We're in Los Angeles, California, here for Teradata Possible. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.